as Iran has launched hundreds of missiles towards Israel. But let's not forget that before Iran's 1979 revolution, it used to be a very, very different country to how it is now. This is an Iranian woman in the 1960s by a beach on the Caspian Sea. Look at it, a beautiful, liberal country. And this snap, also from the 60s, shows glamorous locals kicking off their heels to do the Tehran twist to Iranian rock and roll music of the day. It looks like Saint-Tropez in the Middle East. And this photo is of students at Tehran's National University in the mid-1970s. What a wonderful, liberal country that was, but things changed rapidly. And one man who knows just how Iran's changed is a human rights activist, Vahid Beheshti, who joins me now in the studio. He left Iran 27 years ago and for the last 588 days has been camping outside the Foreign Office to protest about the regime. He also went on hunger strike for 72 days earlier this year until he was hospitalised. An astonishing story. Thank you very, very much for coming into the studio and standing up for your country. Can I first ask you your thoughts? Last night, the missiles were flying into Tel Aviv. It happened on the show. What are your thoughts about what Iran is doing in the Middle East?
So we knew this is going to happen. And in past 5 months, in all my interviews and speeches, I have said this is an inevitable war. It's going to happen because the leaders of this evil regime, they have no choice than get involved directly with Israel. So they created all these proxies for all these years around Israel. Now Israel is cutting the hands of this octopus of terrorism. One by one, Hamas, Hezbollah, neutralize them. Islamic Jihad going to Houthis. They know Israel. Next one is going to go for the head of octopus, as Naftali Bennett stated yesterday. So they knew this is going to happen. So they are coming toward this before they're going for the head of octopus. So as you said, and you showed the Iran before 1979. Forgive me for this. I don't call it the revolution.
Yes.
So that I call it the international military coup against Iran, Islamism occupation. So let me give you this very short story about a few seconds. 1979, before all this chaos in Iran, it was a meeting in Guadeloupe in France between Giscard d'Estaing, James Callaghan from here, Jimmy Carter from America, and Helmut Schmidt from Germany. So they decided in that 3 days meeting for regime change in Iran because the Shah of Iran says he's not going to sell the oil with the same price anymore. That was first reason. The second reason, they were going to create an ideological wall in front of Soviet Union in that time, in front of communism. So very soon after that, they created a character from Khomeini and they transferred the reformist movement that we had in Iran, and the Shah of Iran was on top of that, to the revolutionary movement and end up changing regime in Iran. And very soon, few months later, after the regime, by the encouragement of Soviet Union, attack U.S. embassy, the whole project fall in the hands of Soviet Union, and we are where we are now after 45 years. Now that threat is not there anymore. It's here. Look at our street. Look at our youth. They're radicalizing our youth here. IRGC is based on here. This mosque, these Islamic centers, these organizations, look what they are doing here. And the only country understand the true nature of this evil regime is Israel, and is doing the great job. Israel is not fighting only for themselves. They're fighting for us. They're fighting for our civilizations. I can explain more a little bit about this, but let's go with your question.
It's an extraordinary situation, Vahid, that a citizen of a country is almost willing a war upon it because you want the regime changed, not the country to be destroyed. Of course, you want the country to be returned to how it was. Are you currently in exile? I'm assuming you can never go back. Your life would be in danger.
Exactly. So the clergies of IRGC issued fatwa for my head. So when I was in the hospital after 72 days hunger strike, we understand the fatwa has been issued for my head. So of course is that. But we are not pro-war. We are not warmonger. However, this war has been imposed to us. So we have no choice than to stand together and win this war against this evil regime. Because let me explain something. The nature of this regime is this. They believe they have a divine mission. This is their belief system. And they believe their 12th saint, which is named Mahdi, is alive after 1400 years and he's going to return. So they have to prepare the world for his return. So they have to turn our modern world into Islamic state. So in order to do that, the first step to destroy our civilization, Western civilization, they have to eliminate the state of Israel. So the elimination of Israel is not the goal, it's the first step toward destruction of Western civilization.
And that brings me to my next point. We've just seen hand grenades thrown at the Israeli embassy in Copenhagen. We've seen gunfire outside the Israeli embassy in Stockholm. We've seen repeated week after week after week marches in Britain, parliamentarians leaving office, firebombing of offices. Are you saying that this is a coordinated action, that the Iranian Islamic forces want there to be chaos in the West, and Britain should be very, very careful?
Exactly. This is part of hybrid warfare strategies of Iranian regime. They worked on this for past 37, 38 years. They invested billions on this hybrid warfare for today. You think is it just happening overnight that they can mobilize 200,000 people? You think this chaos in university campuses from America, Canada to Europe is just happening overnight? No, this is an alliance of Islamism and Marxism together, not today, yesterday. This is a result of many years. But today, Israel is not fighting only for themselves. They know, as I explained before, the aim is our civilization, Western civilization.
Wow.
So Israel is fighting for all of us. And in the end, my advice to world leaders is this: stand behind Israel and give up your short and quick interest with this evil regime. I can assure your interest will be much greater with a normal regime in Iran.
Astonishing guest. Thank you, Vahid Beheshti. Superb, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And stay safe out there, mate, because it looks like you're going to be in a spot of bother. Thank you very, very much. Amazing. Now, I'll continue this conversation soon, but got some astonishing breaking news, and that's that the Danish police have confirmed that explosions outside the Israeli embassy in Copenhagen were caused by hand grenades. Let's get all the latest now with GB News' Homeland Security editor, Mark White. Mark, last night on the end of my show, we saw that astonishing barrage of missiles from Iran into Tel Aviv. Netanyahu responded saying Iran will pay a price. Hezbollah saying we are only in the first round. And now this breaking out in Copenhagen. There's been trouble also in Spain, as I understand it. What's the latest?
Well, I think proof, if any were ever needed, that although that war in the Middle East is thousands of miles away from the UK and other Western nations, it is still being felt in those Western nations. As you say, the police in Denmark confirming that explosions that were reported outside the embassy building in the capital Copenhagen late last night were, they believe, caused by 2 hand grenades that were thrown towards the building. And also confirmation coming through from the police in Sweden that the sound of bangs that were heard outside the embassy building in Stockholm was, according to the police in Stockholm, gunfire aimed at that Israeli embassy building there as well. So some real concerns in Western nations about the potential for Israeli and Jewish targets in particular to be targeted by these Iranian aligned extremist groups. And of course, we're now looking at these incredible images of the ballistic missiles that came raining down across Israel last night, and the Israeli government confirming, as we watched these, Martin, with increasing alarm because we saw so many impacts. The Israeli government confirming that the majority of those explosions that did hit the ground were in open areas and caused no damage. And the other missiles were taken out in the air by the aerial defence systems that Israel employs to such great effect. What we can also tell you about, Martin, is the first Israeli military casualty, the first death being reported now out of Lebanon in that ground incursion. Captain Eitan Oster, an officer in command of a commando unit that was involved in a ground incursion to take on Hezbollah in one of the villages that they have described as a Hezbollah stronghold, lost his life. A number of other IDF soldiers injured and medevaced out of that area. And throughout the day, airstrikes are continuing in Lebanon, in the capital Beirut and elsewhere in Lebanon, as Israeli Air Force jets and missiles and artillery continue to target these Hezbollah positions in that area. So, of course, Israel taking in fire from Iran as they did last night, but also fighting now in Gaza and on that northern front against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon.
Thank you very much for that update, Mark Wyatt. And later in the show, we'll speak to Sir Malcolm Rifkin, the former Foreign Secretary and Defence Secretary, for his take on the perception there could be an increased terror threat, perhaps, here in the United Kingdom.